The Eagles' dominant Super Bowl victory over the Chiefs has set an example for other teams to follow. It shows how to win a Super Bowl and how to defeat a highly favored team like the Chiefs. Now that the Raiders' coaching staff is finalized, we can hope that brighter days are ahead for the team. To achieve success similar to the Eagles' dominant victory, the Raiders will need to take the same strategic steps that led to such a win. In this video, I'll analyze the key steps the Raiders can take to secure their next victory and explore potential draft options that align with the team's needs. What's up, buddies? Welcome back. If you are new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We cover all AFC West news here on this channel. As we look ahead to this draft, every class tends to have its own identity. Last year was all about the quarterbacks, with 6 going in the top 12. That won't be the case this year. In a classic team-building sense, it's usually about quarterbacks and pass rushers. And this year, the pass rushers are everywhere. No matter how you categorize them, this draft is stacked with players who can get after the quarterback. Beyond that, it's a strong running back class. There are guys like Ashton Genie who could go in the first round, and players like Caleb Johnson who will be available in the top 100 picks. And if you need offensive tackles, you better grab one early. Interior offensive linemen will be solid in rounds 2 and 3. Wide receivers are also a good class, but not necessarily loaded with game-changing talent. As for defensive backs, there are solid options, but outside of Travis Hunter, you may not see true game-changers. Overall, this is a draft where teams will want to build up in key areas, especially along the line of scrimmage. Teams might have to turn to free agency for certain positions, but if they're looking for depth in the trenches, this is the year to find it. We'll also touch on the quarterback class because the Raiders need stability, continuity, and production at that position. Before we dive deeper, let's go back to the importance of defensive linemen and tie it into the Super Bowl Sunday. The Philadelphia Eagles notably sacked Patrick Mahomes 6 times in their 40-22 victory over the Chiefs while also forcing the quarterback to commit 3 turnovers. Like the Super Bowl 59 champions, the Raiders know being successful against the Chiefs means getting after Mahomes. That kind of dominance doesn't happen without elite talent and depth up front. The Eagles have been pounding the draft for years to build that defensive front. Look at their recent first-round picks: Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith. Day 2 picks like Milton Williams have turned into key contributors. Even late-round picks like Josh Sweat have made an impact. Now, look at the Raiders. With Spytek and Carroll in charge, it makes sense that they take a similar approach. Spytek comes from Tampa Bay, where Jason Licht consistently invested in linemen, and Pete Carroll has always believed in having a strong front. Seattle's success was built on it. Given that mindset, it wouldn't be surprising to see the Raiders follow the Eagles' lead by loading up on defensive linemen in this draft. The good news for the Raiders is they already have a cornerstone in Max Crosby. Unfortunately, they didn't have Malcolm Koonce for the full season, which hurt their defensive production. Koonce, a third-round pick in 2021, was really coming into his own before injuries set him back. Las Vegas didn't get a full season from their high-profile free agent Christian Wilkins as well. With injuries depleting the defensive front, the Raiders need to reinforce their depth. That's why it's hard to imagine them leaving the first 3 rounds of this draft without adding at least 1, maybe even 2, impact players on the defensive line. Let's break down some names in this defensive tackle class because there's a lot to like. At the top, Michigan's Mason Graham could be a top 5 pick. Beyond that, you've got guys like Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, and Deone Walker, who's an absolute monster at 6 feet 6 inches, 340 pounds. Shamar Stewart is an interesting case. He's not over 300 pounds, but his athleticism could make him a big-bodied edge rusher. Further down the board, Tennessee's Omar Norman Lott and South Carolina's TJ Sanders are intriguing day 2 options. And then there's Oregon's Derek Harmon, a big, athletic, heavy-handed lineman with a ton of upside. With so much depth in this class, teams will have to decide, do they take the first defensive tackle off the board, or do they wait, knowing there will be quality options later? That's the kind of decision the Raiders will have to weigh. With the number 6 pick, they'll have a chance to grab a true difference maker. But they'll also have opportunities later in the draft to find high-value players who can contribute right away. As we move through the draft process, we'll continue breaking down the key position groups and potential targets for the Raiders. Up next, we'll talk quarterbacks. Because as much as this draft is about building in the trenches, that position remains the biggest question mark for Las Vegas. Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are 2 of the most talked about quarterback prospects. And after watching both of them in recent games, it's clear they bring different strengths to the table. Cam Ward exudes confidence. One can see it in the way he plays, the way he carries himself, and how he makes decisions on the field. He plays with an edge, and that shows in how he approaches the game. When watching Ward, one thing that stands out is his arm talent. There were multiple plays where he was about to throw, held back, reset, and still delivered a strong, accurate pass. Beyond that, Ward can extend plays. On the other hand, Shedeur Sanders has a different play style. While Ward plays with confidence and edge, Sanders plays with necessity. Sanders doesn't have the same elite athleticism as Ward, but he's got pocket craftiness. He has a natural feel for pressure, sidesteps defenders, ducks under would-be sacks, and keeps plays alive. Sometimes he drifts too far back in the pocket, sometimes even 35 yards behind the line of scrimmage, but he has the arm strength to make up for it. He can throw off platform, under pressure, and still deliver accurate passes. One knock on him is that he leaves the pocket a little too early at times, but given how often it collapses around him, that's understandable. The evaluation of these two quarterbacks is fascinating because it comes down to what a team values more. Some teams might want that dynamic, alpha dog presence that Ward brings. Others might appreciate the composure and toughness Sanders has shown in chaotic situations. One thing that has been consistent in conversations about Cam Ward is leadership. Everyone who has been around him talks about his alpha dog mentality. He's not afraid of confrontation, and he holds his teammates accountable. That's a big deal for teams looking for a franchise quarterback. Teams want their quarterback to be an extension of the head coach, someone who commands respect in the locker room and sets the tone for the organization. Beyond Ward and Sanders, the race for the number 3 quarterback in this class is wide open. There isn't a clear-cut third guy right now, and that makes for an interesting discussion. We probably won't see the third QB come off the board in the top 10 or even the top 15. Now that the Super Bowl is in the books, the entire league is in off-season mode. That means draft talk is heating up, and today we'll look at mock drafts from 4 analysts: Field Yates and Matt Miller from ESPN, Daniel Jeremiah from NFL Network, and former NFL scout and former Raider Bucky Brooks. This is just an early look at how things could shake out. Field Yates' mock draft presents a balanced top 6 selection, emphasizing talent in multiple positions. With Travis Hunter at number 1, Yates values his rare dual threat ability as a cornerback and wide receiver. His choice of Cam Ward as the first quarterback taken indicates confidence in Ward's arm strength and mobility, particularly as a fit for the Giants' offensive scheme. By placing Shedeur Sanders at number 6 for the Raiders, Yates acknowledges the need for stability at quarterback, while hinting at the Raiders' ability to land a top-tier passer without trading up. His draft highlights the depth of talent in the top 6, while giving the Raiders a future leader under center. Matt Miller's mock from February 3rd follows Yates' predictions, but swaps a few key picks. He also has Cam Ward as the first quarterback taken, reinforcing the idea that Ward's skill set fits the Giants better than other available options. The selection of Will Johnson at number 5 instead of Mason Graham shifts focus slightly towards secondary help, but his consistency in picking Shedeur Sanders at number 6 suggests confidence that the Raiders won't need to reach or trade up to secure their quarterback of the future. Miller's approach suggests that while the draft might be light on franchise-changing quarterbacks, Sanders presents an upside worth betting on. Daniel Jeremiah's earlier mock draft from January 26th aligns with both Yates and Miller in many respects, particularly regarding the Raiders' selection at number 6. Jeremiah's decision to place Cam Ward at number 3 and Sanders at number 6 shows the early consensus forming around these quarterbacks. His focus on Mason Graham and Will Campbell in the trenches for the Jaguars and Patriots, respectively, underscores the importance of fortifying the offensive and defensive lines. Jeremiah's picks demonstrate a belief that foundational players in the trenches are just as valuable as securing a potential franchise quarterback. Bucky Brooks' mock draft depicts another picture. At number 1, the Tennessee Titans are on the clock. Brian Callahan is their new head coach, and he needs a quarterback. The big question is, do they go for tools or a technician? In this scenario, they go for upside. Cam Ward goes number 1 overall to Tennessee. The Titans need a spark, a leader, and someone who can make big-time throws. Ward checks those boxes. At number 2, the Cleveland Browns are up. Normally, you'd think quarterback here, but with Myles Garrett requesting a trade and making it clear he wants out, they might look to replace him. So they grab Abdul Carter, the edge rusher from Penn State. This allows them to use the trade return from Garrett to potentially address quarterback in 2026. At number 3, the New York Giants are in desperate need of a quarterback. The Daniel Jones experiment hasn't worked out, and they need a fresh start. Shedeur Sanders lands in New York, a market built for big personalities. Sanders has handled the spotlight before, and he's well prepared for everything that comes with being a quarterback in a big market. At number 4, the New England Patriots need to rebuild their offensive line. It was arguably the worst in football last season, so they grab Will Campbell, the offensive tackle from LSU. You have to protect your quarterback, and this is a smart foundational pick. At number 5, the Jacksonville Jaguars make an interesting move. They take Travis Hunter, the electric two-way player from Colorado. Jacksonville needs a corner, and Hunter's playmaking ability fits well in their new defensive scheme. Now, the Las Vegas Raiders are on the clock at number 6. There are 2 logical options here: Mason Graham, the defensive tackle from Michigan, or Will Johnson, the Michigan cornerback. Graham would give them a dominant force up front alongside Christian Wilkins, strengthening the defensive line. On the other hand, Johnson is a cerebral, instinctive corner who can help shut down some of the top offenses in the division. Given the firepower in the AFC West, having a high-end corner makes a lot of sense. The trend is clear. Most of the analysts see the Raiders landing a quarterback at number 1. 6. And Shedeur Sanders is the consistent pick. However, according to Bucky Brooks, the Raiders need defensive talent, and either of these Michigan standouts would be an excellent addition. So what do you think, guys? Who will be the Raiders this season? Share your thoughts in the comment section.